Welcome to Q&A practice. Let's get started with our transcript and we'll do a little four-voice practice. We'll start with the plaintiff attorney. Ready? How was the corporation initially capitalized? In other words, when did you first put money into it and how much money went into it? Basic funding, if I remember, was... You are now talking about Prussell Pharmacy Inc. Prussell Pharmacy Inc., right. Probably around $8,000. Approximately when would that have gone in? In September of '98. Would that be in addition to the $3,000 that went to the lease? I don't remember. Those funds came from you? Yes. Did that include, if I may ask, that $3,000 include the monies for incorporation cost, or was that extra, if you remember? I don't remember. In Joyner Beauty World, what were the costs of entering into that lease? That was $6,000. Was that paid through the corporation as well? Yes. What other monies were deposited to get that corporation going? Approximately the same amount. About $3,000? Yes, if I remember. Would that be over and above the $1,500 or including? I don't remember. This came from you as well? Yes. What else was initially transferred to Prussell Pharmacy Inc. other than the cash, the $3,000 cash? What else went into it? The fixtures. Those would be the fixtures from C-Clip that were secured by the SBA, right. What about inventory? Inventory was hand-to-mouth type thing. I don't understand the question. As far as what inventory was transferred to, he already answered that. Yes, he did. You indicated there were a couple of $100 that was transferred from the C-Clip residual inventory. That's right. I split that up between the two stores. The inventory was $100 each store. So a couple of $100 went into this Prussell Pharmacy and a couple of $100 ended up at Joyner Beauty World. I would say half of it. Right, some good four-ways practice there. Let's get back to our other transcript with the EMTs and TKO. Okay, let's see, where are we? All right, we'll start with the plaintiff. Ready? But no fluids were given. No fluids were given. Is that standard that you just started so that when she gets to the hospital, she'll be ready to... Yes, and if she needs fluids en route to the hospital, we have an IV established and we can give it to her or any other medication through the IV port as well. Do you recall whether you gave her any medication? We did not. Either at the scene or en route? We did not. So you did not. You didn't give any morphine or any pain medication, correct? No, that's correct. That is correct. Do you know if anyone else that was involved in rendering aid to her gave her any type of pain medication such as morphine? I wouldn't know that as soon as she got to the hospital. My question is for what was being done for her at the scene and en route before she got to the hospital. No medications were given to her before we arrived at the hospital. Okay, I'm going to show you a copy of a lab report from the hospital about halfway down the page where it shows. This is the drug screen and the lab report, which shows opiates with a positive result. Is there anything that you would have given her or done during your treatment of her at the scene or en route to the hospital that would account for a positive result, in your opinion, as a objection? Paramedic. Lack of foundation calls for witness to speculate, calls for an improper lay opinion, calls for an expert opinion. Nothing I gave her would give her a positive result under opiates. Okay, thank you. I think we'll attach a copy of this lab report as Exhibit 4. Well, let me ask you a follow-up question to that then. Are you aware of anything that any of the EMTs working with you or any of the other paramedics working with you may have administered or given to the patient that would account for that positive result on the drug screen for opiates? Same objections as previously noted. Nobody had access to any opiate medications besides me on the call, and nothing was given to my knowledge. Do you have an estimate of how much time you spent with the patient from your arrival to the scene to leaving the hospital? I have an estimate of about 8 minutes on scene. That's patient contact time to leaving to the hospital. Leaving for the hospital. Leaving for the hospital. Is that pretty quick? Or is our goal is to get off scene in 10 minutes on any type of trauma. Was there anything in particular that you did treatment-wise en route to the hospital? Probably most of the treatment that she received was en route to the hospital. The only thing we probably did on scene, which is typical in any type of trauma situation like this, is put them in full C-spine to protect the spine. Usually everything else is done en route to save on time. Looks like one set of vitals were taken before we left, and then a second set en route, correct. Is there any significance to the findings on those vitals, either the first or second set? Nothing significant. Do you know whether any medical treatment was rendered to the driver of the vehicle that struck the patient? From this PCR, I would have to say no medical treatment was rendered to the driver. He would receive a separate PCR though, if there was, and it would have been indicated that my patient was either patient 1 or patient number 2 if there was a second patient. And since there is no indication, it suggests there was just the one. That's correct. If needed, is it standard procedure for paramedics to administer such medications as morphine, pain medication? Yes. What is, strike that. How is that determination generally made, whether or not it's necessary or indicated? If we're talking about like a traumatic type call, we give morphine for pain, and it all depends on the type of injuries as well. All right, that will conclude our Q&A practice. Thank you.